Tony Massenburg, former NBA player, played for damn near every team in the league, including the Celtics. Tone, you know that's where I want to start because you and I have talked about your time with the Celtics. I know it was brief, but in doing our research, I mean, you were here with Pitino. You got a chance to play with Larry Legend alongside him. I need stories. I need a Pitino story from you or a teammate that told you after you were gone, or I need a Larry Bird story. Give me all your Boston stories, please, Tony, all of them.
Well, I'll give you a quick Larry Bird story, actually, before I got there. I just want to, because, like, again, I'm going to take you back to my rookie year, right? And so coming into the league, I always looked at Larry Bird. I was like, okay, he's really good, but how good is he, right? This is young me, right? This is 19, 20-year-old me, right? I'm questioning just how good Larry Bird really is because I just, at that time, I'm like, doesn't jump real high, doesn't run real fast. Like, okay, I know he can shoot a little bit, but like, well, why is everybody having such a hard time guarding this guy? Like, I don't get it. I could guard him. So fast forward about 2 years. I'm 22 years old. I'm a rookie for the San Antonio Spurs. And so we play the Boston Celtics, and it just so happens we got some injuries on the front line. And guess who's in the starting lineup playing against the Boston? Guess who has to guard Larry Bird at core position playing alongside David Robinson, right? So I'm like, yes. see what's up with this guy, right? Lock this dude up. He ain't like that, right? So this is what I'm thinking. So I go out there. So Larry gets me ISO'd on the way. He just kind of looks at me, right? So I'm looking at it like, yeah, you're not getting that off tonight. So he gives me the simple, Travis. He gives me the simple 1, 2 jab step, right? Now I don't go for it because I know he's gonna shoot the J, and I'm gonna block it in my mind, right? I got my feet set. I'm gonna block it. I'm gonna throw this in the stands, right? He's gonna know who I am tonight. So he gives me the 1, the 2, and I was like to myself, all right, here it comes. He raises up, he shoots it. I jump to the moon, swing with everything I got. Nothing. Right? Tap his hand like that, right? So when I come down, I turn back and I look real quick. All I see is the ball going through. Boom! 3, right? So I'm like, all right. I almost got that one. I almost got it. Just got to slide up a little bit closer. I'm going to get the next one. So we come back down, a couple of trips down the floor, back and forth. He gets me out on the wing again. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to shade a little bit to his left. I'm going to shade a little bit to his right hand this time because, that's all he got. He can't drive by me because he's too slow. So he jabs, he looks at me again, right? And again, it's the look of, like, what are you doing? Like, that's how Larry's looking at me. Like, what are you, like, who are you kind of thing, right? So, and I'm reading this in his eyes because it's like the look of no respect. It's like no respect. Like, you're not even really here. But in my mind, I'm about to lock him up. So I shade to the right. He gives me the same move, Travis. Same move. 1, 2. And I'm like, same result. Swinging with everything I got. Hit his hand on the release. I look back. Ball. Boop, another 3.
Man.
So I'm like, I'm like, okay. Thought I could block that. Guess that's not going to happen. So now at this point, we go back and forth. Larry Brown calls a timeout, and Larry can see, I'm flustered. Like, I'm a little bit. Larry taps me. He's like, listen, kiddo, the guy's a great player. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. And then he subs me out. And then I'm sitting on the bench, right?
Don't be discouraged. Right. You're out of the game.
Yeah, you out of the game. Here, sit over here next to me, kiddo. Paul, get him. You put in, he put in Paul Pressey. So it was one of those moments because I never really had anybody look at me at that point on a basketball court with, like, I don't even know what to describe it as anything other than just like you're not even here, dudes. You're not even here.
Wow.
Like, this is like practice. Like, do you know? And I was like, well, I guess I didn't know, but I know now. So You fast forward about a year and a half, 2 years. I end up doing my first stint with Boston as a 10-day.
Yep.
And the guy that I'm filling in for is Larry because Larry had the bad back.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly, I know once Larry comes back, I'm done because
Right.
they got a full roster, and so I end up doing 2 10 days. But in the course of those 2 10 days, for me to be around the likes of Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish,
Wow.
I did 2 10 days, 20 days there with those guys. I, I gotta say it played a role in my career because I saw what made them so great. It was the fact that all three of them were extremely hard workers. They never cheated the game in the way of like committing to areas of the game that a lot of people think aren't important. They were willing to do the dirty work if need be. And you're talking about guys who were kind of at the end of their careers at that point. Robert Parrish will go on to play, longer than the other two. But I really learned a lot from watching Larry, watching Kevin McHale in practice, watching, Robert Parrish and just being in that organization. And, for me, I was honored because Red Auerbach wanted me. I
Mm-hmm.
was a Red Auerbach guy. The reason why I got those 2 10 days is because Red Auerbach has always had an affinity for Maryland players dating back to Len Bias.
Wow.
Red Auerbach famously said at Lenny's funeral, he schemed for 3 years to move up in the draft to get Len Bias because he knew how good he was. Larry Bird was coming to rookie free agent camp just so that he could work with Len Bias.
Wow.
And yeah, oh yeah, that's a true story. And so for me, winning over a guy like Red Auerbach um, meant a lot because I know the greatness that Red Auerbach brought to the game as a general manager, as a coach, and evaluating talent. And if Red Auerbach likes me, then you know what? I don't even care what the rest of y'all think.
That's right.
As far as other GMs and all that. And so that's how I ended up getting not one but 2 stints with the Boston Celtics. Red brought me back literally. He brought me in 91, 92 on the 10 days to replace Larry. Larry came back, so then I was released. And then he brought me back in 97 under Rick Pitino and signed me for 3 years at that point. So
Man.
what happened there in training camp, long story short, me and Rick Pitino did not see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
I was not his type of guy, and he wasn't my type of guy.
Mm.
And that became apparent early on. And so I ended up getting traded in training camp. Now, here's the thing. Nobody remembers this, but if you go back and you look at that 97, 98 roster, there were a lot of guys that were traded. There was probably 3, 4 guys along with myself who were traded in training camp. And we're
Mm.
not talking as part of one deal. We're talking about individual trades that were made. He even ended up trading guys that he brought in. He traded Ron Mercer, who was his guy from Kentucky and who was a rookie. He moved a guy like Chris Mills, who had just signed with the Boston Celtics for a lot more money than I did
Mm.
at that time. And so Chris Mills, again, veteran players struggle with Rick Pitino. And so a lot of us ended up getting moved very early on, like in training camp, and other guys would be traded, during that season. So I was still honored because I knew that Red Auerbach wanted me. I wasn't a Rick Pitino type player. Um, his coaching style didn't work for me, but it didn't work for a lot of veteran players. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
So, and the proof is in, like I said, and when you go back and you look at how many trades were made during that course of time, and also the fact that he ends up resigning 3 years into a 5-year deal
Right.
where he was not only the coach, he was the general manager and the president.
Mm.
I mean, it was unprecedented power that he had, that he was given in that organization to really set it up and run it the way that he wanted. And he ultimately tapped out in 3 years. And obviously they didn't win during his tenure. And so with that in mind, obviously the Celtics, had to make some moves and obviously they didn't win a championship again. until the arrival of Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce. So the Celtics history, they had to go through something similar to what the Wizards are going through right now when you talk about having to break it down, to the basically the frame and rebuild it from the ground up, and you do that by way of draft picks and making the right acquisitions in the offseason. And a lot of times that takes a lot of time. It took the Celtics a long time to rebuild.
Yeah.
And ultimately they ended up winning a championship. And now when you look back at that KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen led team, they don't get back to winning a championship until last year.
Right.
And that, look how much time had passed in between, those championships.